being a parent now and stuff, just imagine like in the future. Like I don't know how I'm gonna go around sending my kid to school and telling him all the stuff he's gonna go through. Because I actually don't think school was as bad when we went to what it is now. I still think I think especially with guys, and then we can talk about girls and say I definitely think schools get rid of that masculine side to boys, I think. Because you in schools you have to put your hand up and say, "Can I go to the toilet?" If you if you speak too loud to the teacher, you get told off, you get sent out the classroom, and it just trains you to sit down and shut up. And men aren't supposed to be like that.
Not only that, you get told off or shouted at or whatever punishment you get for debating a teacher. If a teacher's teaching something and you debate them on that topic, that should be you should be what's the word? Like that should be good. You should be punished.
Uh, like thought out this is, but I was just thinking the other day, and this goes on the topic, the people that once they got told off in school and stayed the same throughout and just shut up. I feel like most of them are in office jobs right now because it's more of a, I don't know if I should say feminine thing, but like definitely the boys who grew up and still were rebellious are doing like the labor work, you know? Like that's what I see from my school anyway. Most of the people that didn't do too well and coincidentally they weren't the best behaved, they're all like in labor now and they're doing like building roads, construction and stuff like that. So I don't know how that links. I don't know. But I definitely think school is hard for girls as well because I think girls in general are just in constant competition with each other. They've got they got to have the best life, they've got to have the best looks. And I think that's damaging girls' mental health from very, very early age. Like I don't know how tribal schools are now, but I think I can see that affecting girls quite a bit, to be fair.
Yeah, if we're I don't know if we're talking about elementary or high school, but I did see when I was in elementary school where girls would get very competitive and the girls that were the most liked among the guys would be the ones that were also the most hated. And then the girls who were different or they had different opinions, they were they were like more isolated. They didn't talk to many people and then we see those types of people that are were all part of the popular crowds and they're kind of doing the kind of like you said those types of jobs, those types of lifestyles and another thing too I was going to say which happened in high school is I'm not going to say exactly what it was, but this teacher, we had a substitute teacher, he kind of challenged one of the mainstream ideas and these two kids were yelling at him and one of the kid was started to swear at him and go up all up in his face and then the kid stormed out like swearing everything. I was so shocked what was going on and he stormed out and guess what, the kid didn't get in trouble or the kids didn't get in trouble. It was actually the substitute teacher because the substitute teacher was challenging a mainstream idea and then the obviously the principals they sided with the kids because it basically had to do with like wokeness and all that. So
What
yeah.
was the idea?
Hmm?
What was the idea?
Like what the substitute teacher said?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. If you guys want, I'll tell you. So the substitute teacher was trying to explain why all lives matter is not racist, and but this teacher was wait, hold on. This teacher I think was like literally South Asian. He wasn't even white. Like he was South Asian too, and they were like yelling at him, and he was trying to explain like why all lives matter wasn't racist or something. Like he, I don't know. And then the two kids were like yelling at him, and then the substitute teacher had to apologize, and he was reprimanded or whatever. So
Um, reprimanded for saying the truth. That's strange. That's just the world, though, isn't it? But that's the thing. Like, I don't know what the curriculum is going to be like for kids in the future. Are they going to enforce certain ideologies onto kids more? Because that's how you really indoctrinate a society. You insert the idea from a very young age, and then the longer you reaffirm that belief to them, the harder it is to get them to see a different point of view.
if I may add, it's like even in Catholic schools, because remember I told you guys about that the Josh guy and they actually went to protest in big numbers, but basically he was in a Catholic high school, said he believes in two genders, which is biblical what it says in the Bible, and then they literally got him in trouble when they're in a Catholic school. You know what I'm trying to say? That's why too it's very ironic. It seems like it's seeping into like religious institutions, which I know that's another topic, and it's just seeping into other things. It's like they're forcing people to change their mindset. And it's like, you're not safe anywhere sharing your opinions at this point, even in Catholic schools.
That's what I mean. Like, I feel like my kid will just get into trouble a lot because he'll be like, no, there are two genders, and like that's it, you know. So
It
it's
is
going to be.
literally 1984, though, what they're doing in the schools right now.
I mean, has it always been 1984? Just we're going through a different time period.
Listening to what's going on in the schools at the moment, I was at school 12 years ago and I couldn't imagine any students getting like angry or passionate about a teacher saying all lives matter.
No, well, I mean, it wasn't even a thing back then, but
I know it wasn't a thing back then, but I couldn't see any students getting riled up about anything political because we didn't even think about politics when I was at school.
that's what I mean. You can't avoid politics now; it's everywhere.
And also, I was going to say, with the rising immigrants we're getting from countries that are more conservative, it's like, how is this going to affect how the kids are raised? Because we have these kids in the schools that probably were raised with very, like, I guess, more conservative or religious ideas. And then they're going in these schools and being taught the complete opposite. So how is that going to affect those kids too?
Mhm. I can't speak from that. I imagine it will cause conflict in households, as is the plan, but who knows?
Yeah, I definitely think the education systems, because when I was in school and everyone was in school, it was very much set up on what we were talking about before, that it's just setting you in your sort of little cage to go out into the world and go into a different cage and get paid for it. But now it's like, okay, they've mastered that, so they've got control of everyone's sort of journey of life. Now it's part two. Let's add a little bit more to it. Let's start controlling their narratives.
I mean, school is literally like prison. You know, that actually reminds me, I won't reveal the location, but my local school, apparently, at the school that I used to go to, locked the toilets during lesson times, so students couldn't go to the toilet.
Really?
Yeah. So like, like, what are you doing? That is literally like prison. Like, I can't imagine that. I can't imagine how wet the floors must be, but you know, I don't know what they're playing at. But that's just crazy that schools can have that sort of authority, you know.
So, do you reckon our generation is the last generation that would have the ability to sort of like rebel away from the narrative? Because that's what we seem to have done, is rebelled away from the narrative. Do you think that because it was a bit more lighter for us at school in the education system, now it seems like it's a lot heavier? Do you think that this is where the last ones?
Well, I think a rebellion or a pushback always comes from a large quantity of people coming together and pushing back against an idea. But because laziness is promoted, you know, constant stimulation is promoted, people always have the idea now, like, oh, I can't change anything, so I'll just sit back and relax. And I actually think, yeah, you're probably right. We're probably one of the last few generations which has the energy maybe to push back, because in future generations they're going to be pushing back against different things, you know. Which is why I think it's more important than ever. And I had this realization today: we are so close in the West to entering such a backward state. It's unbelievable. So I do think we're the last few, well, maybe the last generation to push back against this stuff, you know.
It does seem that way, and then it's going to be as we get older and our kids end up going into school, then it's going to be basically a bit of a fight against. Well, I'm trying to teach. If you do send your kid to a public school, it's going to be, well, public schools are teaching your kids that, and then they come home and you're then telling them, well, no, this is wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong. This is how you need to think. You're going to be in a constant battle trying to raise your child, and then your child's just not is going to end up so confused and just mentally unstable.
I think a true rebellion, like obviously when women come together, they can raise their voice and cause a lot of change, as we're seeing now with like the whole culture stuff, you know, like their safe spaces being invaded by men that need, no, I'm not going to say, but I think a true rebellion comes when young men get together. And I think they're arguably the most influential demographic, where if young men all have the same idea and they rebel, that's when huge change happens. And from what I see, not a lot of young men care about the stuff that women are go through now, like with their safe spaces, which is why it hasn't changed a lot, you know?
But do you not think as well a lot of young men don't care because a lot of young women don't care?
I think maybe, but I think young men are just heavily sedated right now through a load of the things we've spoken about.
Yeah, it's hard to find strong male role models in your life at this point, and I feel like when people are not raised with strong real male role models, it actually affects them. It actually does. And also back to the thing about education, and this is why it seems like they don't want women to, like, they put this whole narrative that's being a stay-at-home mom and raising your kids is bad, or you need to be in the workforce because then you can't raise your kids in a proper way. And I think it's done on purpose too, you
Well, yeah,
know?
they want the women and the men out of the house so another force can raise the kids. And I think women should be in work anyway. I like if they want to work, they can. I have no opinion on that, but I definitely think you need to have some parent at home a lot of the time. Otherwise, who's going to raise the kids in a certain way? You're just going to leave it up to somebody else that doesn't have your best interests at heart, I think.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And that's why I guess also when we see like young men and yeah, women too like speak up, it seems like it's a breath of fresh air. It seems like it's something so brave because it's like it seems like there's only a few people. So when we see that, we're like drawn to it, like, oh, let's form a community with them. What are they about? Like stay by them because it seems rare to find.